Welcome back, another episode. The steamiest and sexiest chapter Riverdale has ever done is chapter 120, Sex Education. Anything else even remotely comparable. Sensuality was permeating almost everything between the sex dreams and Toni's seductive spoken word performance. The kids had other priorities in mind, despite the fact that there was a fresh murder mystery scenario in the mix. The initial spark was the spoken word performance in the dark room. It was at that point that the plots began to take shape. I adored how each character reacted to Clay and Toni's performances in a different way. Characters like Betty and Archie, despite being turned on, were perplexed by the poems, but Cheryl and Kevin were completely intrigued. The show also felt at home for Veronica because she is a self-assured, confident person. It's amazing that different people responded differently. It seemed more complex and in-depth, as if we were allowed to enter their journeys and learn about where they stood in their romantic relationships. For instance, Kevin doesn't realize he's completely checked out of his love for Betty, and Cheryl is unaware that she needs Archie to mask her intense yearning for Toni. However, the sex fantasies provided all the information regarding who each youngster sought. Anyone else taken aback by how steamy Riverdale became? Because this is a broadcast show on the CW, I was completely taken aback. Toni and Cheryl got steamy and intimate. Archie and Veronica started to smolder. However, Archie was the best combo by far. Archie and Betty appeared to want to eat each other up. The dramatic climax had been built up by them. The scene's creators and stage managers knew exactly what they were doing when they teased and played about with the excitement of Barbie. Since everything was just a dream, it is obvious that Betty is desperately missing her BFF. Speaking of Betty, she must immediately fire Kevin. No one should be coerced into doing anything they don't feel comfortable doing, and everyone should move at their own pace. The issue is that Betty and Kevin have different priorities and are in various phases of their relationships. Her lover is failing to meet her needs. She desires intimacy most of all. Additionally, Kevin never makes an effort to approach Betty or seems interested in her. Betty shouldn't ever feel unwelcome or like a backup plan. They are currently caught in a destructive cycle. Betty is striving for Kevin's approval, while Kevin is using Betty to conceal his affections for Clay. Even if they succeed in getting what they desire, the experience will leave them feeling awful. They evidently lost any desire they had while making out in Veronica's home. That ought to have been a blatant indication to Betty that she ought to end things with him. She also understood what she was lacking thanks to her sexuality book. I hope they stop themselves before they go any farther. If they go for it, it will be disastrous and just make things worse for them. Thankfully, it appears that the romance between Veronica and Archie was a close call that has been resolved. Both parties were in disagreement after their argument in Riverdale Season 7 Episode 2. Archie didn't want to be played with, but Veronica loved to do it. Both of these are good arguments. I appreciated that Veronica and Archie finally discussed their goals and desires. Although brief, it was sufficient to draw the line. Archie made a wise decision by removing himself from the dating pool. He realized that Veronica wasn't the ideal match for him and didn't want to play games. Archie deserves praise for prioritizing himself. It would have been simple for him to go after Veronica, however, he chose to sacrifice himself, demonstrating that he knew what was best for him. Archie has a history of being hasty and careless, but this decision looked to be a more responsible one. Furthermore, it's impossible to say if Veronica's relationship with Archie would have endured had she not recently made contact with Jughead. Compared to other Riverdale high school boys, she has already discovered someone with whom she bonds more strongly. It was exactly what Cheryl would do to tease her mother if she mentioned it. It's not clear whether it actually happened or if it was a mental trick. Cheryl is an expert manipulator and would love to put Penelope and Julian on the spot. And the best argument for doing so would be the notion that the boy next door was abusing her. Archie is a straightforward person who would happily choose either direction, therefore, his response is of no use. We'll have to wait and see if they actually follow through. The mystery plot didn't advance much beyond the dating drama. After a little build-up, the pace consisted mainly of filler and hidden tracks. There were a few instances in Chapter 120, Sex Education, when I was astonished by Jughead's poor decisions. Why, for instance, would he keep the proof under his mattress? Did he not think about hiding his face or keeping an eye out for witnesses? He's so committed to defending his friend, but did he never consider that Ethel could have been able to accomplish it? The fact that he was holding the Killer Milkman comic should have raised some red flags for him. Dr. Werthers would love nothing more than to persuade Sheriff Keller and Principal Featherhead to imprison Ethel and Jughead for whatever crime he believes they committed, so Jughead needs to conduct some damage control. Thanks for watching. For more, subscribe our channel.